Hi, thank you for tuning in. My name is Ambarish, and this video is about some of the database functions available in Microsoft Excel. Functions like dcount, dcount_a, dmax, dmin, dsum, daverage are some of the database functions. There is dget as well. Now, why would someone want to use one of these database functions? Simple. When frequently used functions like countifs, sumifs maybe, or average ifs fail, then you may want to use one of these database functions based on your requirement. So let's take a look at the data given to us here. I've been given sales data of 3 columns, and I've been asked to find out the total number of orders received from Sydney as well as Perth. Remember, it's not just one city that I've been asked about, it is about 2 cities at the same time. Now, had it been just one condition, I would have used count if, and because there is 2 conditions given to me, in this example, the count ifs will not work. I repeat, the count ifs will not work here because this is a case of or. The sales orders have to be either from Sydney or from Perth. Because it's a case of or, the countifs function will not work because the countifs function is only able to cater to requirements like and, between, right? But it does not take care of or scenarios. And that's why I will use one of the database functions. So let's go to the orange cell. Let's type equivalent to DC, and I'll take the first one, which is dcount. I do a tab. Now, the very first function argument or the parameter is database. Well, I can simply go to the cell number A1 and control shift arrow right, control shift arrow down to select the entire table. That's what I mean by database. Now, because I have selected the entire table, you can see that the orange cell in which I was doing the function is no more visible on my screen. Of course, I can see it in the formula bar, but it's not visible in the cell, the orange cell. So obviously, I can use my mouse and scroll up. Well, I have a slightly better method. Let's do a control backspace. The moment I do a control backspace, I'm able to go back to the orange cell without losing my selection. All right, next is comma. Field is the next function argument. Now, the field in a database function is always the column header of one of the columns in the given data. Now, because this is dcount, I am supposed to select only that header which contains numbers or dates. Now, in this data, there is no column of dates, so obviously I'm left with C1 as the only choice. Now, I can either type the cell reference C1 or select the cell reference C1 like I've done, or I can also manually punch in the number 3 here because it's the third column in my database which has got numbers. So either C1 or the number 3, both are fine for field. Next, I can apply the comma, and then the next is criteria. The last parameter is criteria. Now, I have already prepared a small column range here from E1 to E3, and that is going to be my criteria. That's it. I can hit enter, and I've got the answer as 6. Now, let's verify if the database function dcount has done its job. So let's go within the data. Let's apply those filter drop downs first. So Alt-A-T, I can go to the city header, can access the drop down. I can remove the selection on all the cities. I can only keep the selection on Perth and Sydney. There you go. It shows 6 out of 24 records found, which means the database function dcount has performed its job well. Now, let's come back to the data and remove the filter. So Alt-A-T again. Now, let's try the dcount_a function. Of course, the database is going to be the same. Control Shift arrow right, Control Shift arrow down. Again, Control backspace to come back to the active cell without losing the selection. Now, the field in this case can be A1, or it could be B1, or it could be C1. It's your choice to select any one of these headers because we've taken dcount A this time. right? So the D count A is going to allow us to select any of the column headers. Just make sure that the column header which is being selected does not have even a single blank cell, right? So I'll go with A1 this time maybe, comma, and of course the criteria remains the same, E1 to E3. That's it. I can hit enter and the answer is obviously 6 again. So dcount as well as dcount A have given us the right answers. Now what if my requirement was to add up the revenue generated from Perth as well as Sydney? Well, this time I can use the dsum function. Remember, the sum ifs will not work here, and you can try it later, but I'm going with dsum. So database is again going to be from A1 to C25, control backspace, comma. Now field in this case is going to be the revenue column because it is the data in the revenue column that we are supposed to add, right? So C1, and then of course the criteria is E1 to E3. That's it. So the total revenue from these two cities is 362,208. Now let's come back. Let's come to these cells here and change the Sydney to Mumbai. There you go. There are 4 orders from Mumbai and Perth combined, and the revenue is this much. So thank you so much for watching the video. Please go ahead and practice some of the other functions like daverage, dmin, dmax, and tell me your response, your experience in the comments section. Thanks for watching. Have a nice one.